That's honestly a perfect transition to what I was going to say, actually, kind of what you're talking about culture. I was going to actually argue on the opposite side, and I was going to talk about the dysfunction in a lot of teams, specifically for the Jets, Jaguars, Titans, and the Bears. And I'll just say this. I mean, I've gone on a rant. I've talked about the Jets enough. So, I mean, the Jets can speak for themselves. What they've done the last few weeks is really just end result.
Wait. Hey, Yash, do you hear that?
No, what is it? I have earbuds
Nothing.
on. So.
Nothing. The Jets can't
Oh,
say
now I hear it. Yeah, yeah,
nothing.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you see what I'm saying?
yeah, I had my
Nothing.
earbuds on. Sorry, I couldn't hear it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Nothing. They're an
Well, okay.
absolute waste franchise with a useless owner who wants to call himself the ambassador. But you know what he's the ambassador of? Nothing. Because all the money that he had just got thrown away for a bunch of old guys who can't do what they need to do. That's all I gotta say.
And as two kids from the Bay Area who, well, for more me than Akila, she came originally from the Northeast, but for me more, I take it personal when an owner comes out and basically criticizes San Francisco and the Bay Area.
Yeah.
Keep your words in your mouth, all right? Don't have to come after San Francisco, man.
You
I
have one
like
championship in all your years of living. They got five in a decade. Or
There we
two
go.
decades. Two
Well,
decades,
yeah,
but
two days,
still.
13
Yeah.
years. Yeah. But I'll just say this. I mean, when it comes to dysfunctional, like I said, the Jets, I mean, they're the result. This is the end result of another tumultuous tenure of rotating coaches and GMs and QBs and whatnot, right? The Jags, again, they're also speak for themselves. The Jags and Titans, I think, fall into the same category here. These are two teams with very hands-off owners and very hands-off in the sense that they're just, from what it seems, they just don't really do anything when it comes to having accountability within the organization, right? And the same thing you could really put about the Bears, but Bears is a little different. I'll get to that in a sec. But the Titans and the Jaguars just baffle me, right? You get a guy like Doug Peterson as your coach, right? You get a GM like Trent Baalke as your GM, right? And it just baffles me when players can come to a press conference talking about, we don't know what the hell we're doing, right? We don't know what we're being coached. There needs to, what's it called? We need to change things. In the case of the Jaguars, I'm at least proud of the fact that like someone like Andre Cisco is coming out and being saying things need to be changed. But then when Doug Peterson comes out and basically says, "Oh yeah, there's accountability, a culture problem." I'm sorry, aren't you that like you said, Akhilesh, aren't you the head coach? Isn't it your job to set the standard?
Yeah.
Right? So when it comes to this, like there seems to be a lot of finger pointing in these organizations, right? You look at the Jags, including the media, everyone is blaming Trevor Lawrence. And Trevor Lawrence hasn't played great, granted, right? He definitely hasn't played up to the $55 million contract per
Exactly.
year that he received last year, but he hasn't played bad by any means. He's sixth, if I'm not mistaken, in the league right now in QBR, or seventh, right? That's very,
Hmm.
very good. In advanced analytics, he's top 10 in everything. He's played certainly a lot better than he has last year, and he's played very good in the last few weeks, especially. You look at the run game, yeah, it has a few problems here and there, but for the most part, it's good. This is a very talented team. Brian Thomas is playing very good. The defense has a lot of playmakers, but this team has shown day in and day out that they cannot play as units together. And the same thing I'll say
Hmm.
about the Titans. All right, this is a Titans team that went and hired Brian Callahan last year, right? And in the case of Brian Callahan, there seems to be no accountability because you have pretty much frustration every play. All I see are incredibly individually talented players, right? Skill position players at every place, but none of them performing well as, none of them are necessarily performing well as a unit. Offensively, this team will get stuck and stagnant every time. And I get the quarterback problems. I get that for sure. But here's the problem. When you have a quarterback problem that bad, you should at least lean into your run game. The problem with this team is that they're very stubborn with their mistakes. And this team has a very good defense too, but the problem with their defense is they don't lean on the offense, right?
Hmm.
This is very much this reminds me a lot of another Titans team, actually, the 93 Oilers, where it's basically the defense is playing for themselves, the offense is playing for themselves. Only difference is that this team is a lot freaking worse than that 93 Oilers team, right?
Yeah,
You look at the fact, I just don't understand with the Titans, especially, there's I'm shocked. I'm baffled by the fact that they have so many leaders in that locker room. Jeffrey Simmons, Harold Landry, Amani Hooker. Not a
yeah,
single one of them has come out and said a damn thing about what is going on. And this Titans team is what, 3-6 or 2-7?
yeah.
This
Twin Seven.
team, I mean, the only time I've seen them in any sort of paper, in any sort of article, is when Calvin Ridley came out and called out that he should be getting more targets. And I'm not saying Calvin Ridley is a selfish player, but I will say the on face value, when you come out and say I deserve more targets, that comes out as a
Yeah,
comment, right? But what that shows me is, in fact, that you're not in the case of Calvin Ridley, you're not necessarily looking at this from, oh my God, the team is struggling and I can, contribute more. It just seems to me that the fact that it just looks like this team very much at this point has basically lost their ability to play as a unit, as a team. And
yeah,
pretty much now they're playing individual. And
yeah.
that shows on the coach, who really can get to either of these units to basically play with each other, not dependent on each other, and everyone's pointing fingers in the organization. And Rand Carthen is doing absolutely nothing about it. Amy Adams, the owner, is doing absolutely nothing about it. That's a cultural problem. And then we get to the Bears.
Actually,
I don't.
Yash.
We'll get to that in a sec. But what I
Exactly,
will say is
exactly.
this: simply put, when it comes to the Chicago Bears, all I saw was a report this morning talking about them considering benching Caleb Williams. It doesn't matter about what the film says. I know he hasn't been great, and we'll break this down later on, right? He hasn't been that bad by any means. He's at 38.4 QBR. He has very standard numbers for a rookie in the NFL. 9,000 or 1,900 passing yards, 9 touchdowns to 5 interceptions, a 60% completion percentage. For reference, Justin Fields had a 25 QBR in his rookie season. All right. And you're considering basically benching Caleb Williams. I mean, do you think that the Colts would have done that with Peyton Manning if that Peyton Manning would have reached his potential? Hell, the Colts were a dysfunctional organization in their first 4 years. All right,
Yeah.
this team got carried because Manning was, what's it called? Got to an elite level of football long before people expected him to. They got it
No,
through
Yash,
23, but
like
they were struggling every year. It took
just
him
one.
6 years to get to his prime.
One thing I'll say this. In his first season, he was 3-13, threw the most interceptions as a rookie quarterback. Second season,
Yes,
13-3. 13-3, number one
exactly.
team in the entire NFL.
And he led the league in game-winning drives.
Yeah.
So that goes to show you that he's playing a big offensive production, 4,200 passing yards. I think what he had.
Now we're not saying
Right.
Peyton Manning and Caleb Williams are on the same level. Not even
Absolutely.
close.
But what we're saying is Caleb Williams had the same hype, similar, he has a lot of talent himself. And, it doesn't make sense for a quarterback that talented, who had that type of hype, who had that much of trust from the organization from day one, to basically all of a sudden be benched. That destroys a player's confidence. And we've seen that with other quarterbacks like Tua, etc. So you cannot do that and expect a different result when you just have done this with quarterback after quarterback. That just shows a
Fair.
lack of accountability and trying to find a scapegoat in the organization. That's why they've had so many coaches fired, so many quarterbacks traded.